Welcome aboard the National Football Show. It's your boy Dan Sileo, and are we packed? Holy cow. We're here, man. It's one of the best times of the year in sports. Olympic Games, all those camps that are going on now. Every NFL team is getting ready for the upcoming exhibition season. We have Thursday night football. We have the Hall of Fame this weekend. Everything is here for us right now. I'll tell you what I really love, too. You know, I told you this on Friday that the NFL Network was going to go around to all the camps with all 32 teams, and they did. And that was pretty dope. Seeing and peeking into all the teams, even if you don't have a vested interest, say in the Chargers or the Seahawks, it was pretty cool seeing that pretty much every team is doing the same thing as they rep for this upcoming season. And all 90 guys are in camp, and this is going to be, as I said a couple weeks ago, one of the most interesting years in NFL history. Let's get right into it here. By the way, let's start it off with who's on the show today. Bottom of the hour from CBS Sports, covering the National Football League. He sits on the desk on the NFL Today. We will talk to our friend Phil Simms. We'll get his thoughts on really breaking news that happened this morning, but we kind of had it for you on Friday on what was going to go down. We'll talk to him about Carson Wentz. We'll go around the NFL with our friend Phil Simms. That'll be at the bottom of the hour. Hour number 2, we will talk to Jason Cole, our NFL insider, our Pro Football Hall of Fame voter. We'll talk to him also about Wentz and where are the Buffalo Bills going to play. I saw something over the weekend that is so NFL. They want a brand new stadium, do the Buffalo Bills, and they want taxpayers to pay it. And they want them to pay the freight on it. No way. I have never been a fan of this. Oh, let's just build a billionaire, a $1 billion facility. He gets all the advantages, and he gets all the assets, and the community is there with the bill just to keep the team in town. We'll talk about that, and we'll talk with Jason Cole about that. That'll be in hour number 2. Let's start it off here with Carson Wentz. We said on Friday that Carson Wentz was probably going to have to go under the knife and that he would probably have to miss some of the season, and he would miss the majority of the season. My friend Krause asked me, is that Eagles pick now leaning towards being a number 2 pick, or is it leaning towards being a number 1 pick? There's an escalator in there, obviously. If Wentz does well, the Colts make it to the AFC Championship game, and he plays over 70-some-odd% of the games. That guy ends up, or 70% of the plays, I should say, he ends up making that pick a number 1 pick for the Eagles. Does not look like that's going to happen now because it looks like he's going to miss at least the first half of the NFL season. We told you this also on Friday, that the Colts, talking to some of the people inside the organization, are now scrambling and that they were going to have a game plan as of today. And the way I'm looking at it, there is not a guy in that building. This kid Eason is not the answer for them. You know that they would love to have Jacoby Brissett back, but Jacoby Brissett's now down in Miami, back in Tua Tagovailoa. Do they reach out to Phillip Rivers, who won 11 ball games? And I'll tell you what, the Colts really had a damn good season with Rivers. He's now coaching high school football in Alabama. Would he do this for the first part of the season to help out the Colts? Yet to be determined. Nick Foles is even barking about who he is and what he is right now, and kind of throwing maybe an olive branch out, or maybe just so that they kick the tires on Nick Foles. Would they bring him in? He knows the system. Would they look at it and potentially Chris Ballard, the general manager of the Colts, bring him in to at least settle the waters a little bit, because the Colts have a very good football team. This is not good news for the Indianapolis Colts, and most notably, this is not good news for Carson Wentz. Let's start with Carson Wentz first. You know, when you're making a new move to a new team and you're carrying baggage to that new team, or a stigma or an identity or how people perceive you, especially if it's in a negative light, what's the one thing you're trying to do? You're trying to create momentum to get that notion or that narrative away from who they think you are in the public, or the league thinks who you are. Let's take a look at Carson Wentz's history. MCL, ACL, wrist injury, rib injuries, concussion, now a foot injury. I mean, we're talking about a history here of constant injuries. We were talking prior to going on the air, he really only had that one good year. Well, he really was only healthy for about 14 ball games when it came to him being able to have momentum. The rest of the time, he's been inconsistent because he's been hurt the majority of the time in the league. There's one thing you can do. You can work on your game. Lamar Jackson's a great example of this. Working on his game, getting better throwing the ball. There's no question about it. You're not holding on to the football as much. You can work on all those skill set things. But you can't work on being healthy. I heard some people saying, well, this is it's luck. Yeah, okay. But do you think really luck is this? MCL, ACL, wrist injury, concussions, foot injury, surgeries. All of that stuff takes its toll. We were talking last week about Simone Biles and her situation at the Olympic Games. Some say she quit. Some say she needed a mental health break. But what we did was we looked at it and we went like this. Wow, man, she's just not in a good place. How is Carson Wentz supposed to build himself up into a position where he's going to be in a good place when you've had this litany of injuries and now you're starting your 2021 season off at a brand new place injured? I don't know about you, but that's not a way to start your new place off and your career off at a second destination. So now we're talking around, it looks like now that we're talking 3 months, a little bit over 3 months. But that's just to get over the injury. Then you're talking potentially another month. Where are the Colts going to be in that position? Thank God they play in a sorry-ass division where you don't have to really be a world beater in that division for them to be able to go on and win. So just not a way you want to start your new era off in Indianapolis. So Frank Wright and Chris Ballard, the general manager, they have got a lot to think about. In my opinion, too, this evaluation that went on over the weekend, they should have been in a position here on Monday, once they found out everything, that they know what they're going to do when it comes to pulling the trigger here. Now, I will say this. I've had people tell me this. Should they go out and potentially get Jimmy Garoppolo? We'll talk more about that later on in the program, but I would say this. So wait, you make a trade for a guy who's chronically injured, and then you're going to put more money around a guy who's also chronically injured in San Francisco. How does that economically and financially make sense? If you're Jim Irsay of the Colts, why in the world would you make that move? You're going to hire another guy who's got a history of being injured? Why? Then you're going to spend, $30 million on him? Because Garoppolo is not going to be cheap. And I love the fact that what the 49ers have done, they've kept him on the roster because of just this situation. Somebody's going to panic. Them not being able to get a number one, well, how about this? Is the Colts season up in smokes? If they don't have Carson Wentz on that football field, I would think it is. That football team is not going to be an AFC championship contending football team in 2021 without a signal caller that could take them into the playoffs and win ball games for you. There's just no way that guy's going to do that. I mean, they don't have the guy on that roster now. And so would you really gamble with the owner's money? This is how people get fired. Let's go get Garoppolo. I know that sounds like the easy thing, but his history also. So you're going to sign another guy, that's got a history of injuries. That's why certain franchises never win. You've got to be smart in this move. Who can hold it down until Wentz gets back? And to sit there and think that what if you give up a first-round draft choice for Jimmy Garoppolo? He walks in, and then in week 2, he's hurt. My God almighty, you talk about devastation. Not only did you give some of the future away to your team, you got 2 guys on your football team that are chronically injured, and they make a king's ransom. That's not going to cut it, man. That is just not going to cut it. So, end of the day, you got a lot to think about if you're Chris Ballard and Frank Wright. Okay, so going after Jimmy Garoppolo, I'm against that move. 2 injured guys. Okay. I mean, so not good when it comes to that philosophy. Now, the Colts, again, going forward, can they win ball games without a big-time quarterback? Look, if you can get more production, this means more carries for Jonathan Taylor, the running back. They've got one of the better O-lines. They finished 9th in offense last year. They finished in the top 10 in defense a year ago as well. I would say this, more carrying of the football. You're going to have a quarterback that doesn't turn it over, and you're going to rely on that defense for at least for the first 8 games of the season to try to win you ball games. Can you do that? In that division, you probably can. You just need to be around the Mendoza number, the 500 mark, for you to be able to have an opportunity to get into the second half of the season to potentially win ball games and get on a run. So the Colts are thinking all of this. Who can help us the most? Where do we go into a team to try to find a quarterback? The Jimmy G deal, it's all over the internet. And I'm like, why would you go out and put more money into a player that's injured also? It just absolutely doesn't make sense. And if you're the Eagles now, here's their part in this. You're going to look back on this in 5 years, and you're going to say this. With what you're seeing right now, with what you're seeing for the last 2 years in Philadelphia, right now in the intermediate, the Eagles are winning this. You have to move on from that. Look at what the 49ers did from Jimmy G. 3 years ago, Garoppolo has the 49ers in the Super Bowl, and they've moved off him because he can't stay healthy. I think a lot of Wentz's problems are clearly in the health, which has affected the head, which has affected the game. And that's where he is. Okay? He thought he was going to – and you know what, too? You were hearing guys in Indianapolis' camp saying, God, he looks great, this and that. And then the injury popped up. But if you're in Philadelphia right now, you're pissed off that thing's going to only be a 2 because you're not getting a 1 for this guy now. There's no way on the planet do I think he comes back in the first half of the season. You're looking at second half of the season stuff. And then if the Colts are out of it, why even bring him back for the year? What would be that? Why not just give him a full year of rest and redshirt him? Give him that kind of deal. Remember, Frank Reich, this is a long-term deal for him. The Ursays know that this is a long-term, trying to fix the quarterback position. Here's another option. Would you even pick up the phone to call Andrew Luck and call him and say, they're still paying him? On that contract, the Colts loved the guy. He had years remaining on that deal, and the Colts still are paying him his salary. Would you call Andrew Luck and say, look, you only have to play, we have the team. This would be the best team that Andrew Luck would ever have played on. A couple years ago, they were pretty good when they went up to New England in the postseason, but this team's pretty damn good. Do you call Luck up? Hey, I know you're retired, but I don't know if he's 30. I don't know if Andrew Luck is 30. I'll ask Phil Simms that question too. You've got to look at and I can hear people out there going like this. That's stupid. Everything's on the table right now if you're the Colts. You're not quite panicking right now, but you got 6 weeks to the start of the NFL season. You got to figure this thing out, man. Everything's open. Calling Rivers, getting Foles, asking Luck, looking around the NFL and trying to figure out if there's a guy out there. Hey, do you call down to the Saints and talk to Tyson Hill? What are you going to do with Tyson Hill? Are you just going to keep him on your roster? I think the guy's making $10 million a year. What are the Saints going to do? Saints might be able to get a high pick for him. He's not going to command a first-round draft choice. You got 2 quarterbacks in the room there. There's a place that's got 2 QBs. So I'd sit there and I'd go, okay, well, where are we going here with New Orleans? How about this one? Maybe you call Green Bay. What are you doing with Jordan Love? Looks like you and Aaron Rodgers may have ironed this thing out. Do you want to move off of Jordan Love? All things are on the table right now for the Colts. Everything is on the table, except for the Jimmy Garoppolo one. That's where I would have an issue, because Garoppolo is more injured, actually, than what Carson Wentz is. I mean, this guy's missed 53% of his football games in San Francisco since he's been the starter there. You can't build a game plan, let alone building a Super Bowl roster around a guy who misses half his week of work. I mean, imagine that, right? What I'm saying? This guy comes to work on Thursday and Friday, if he's like in you or my world, right? And Monday through Wednesday, he can't show up because of whatever. Never going to be productive that way. You're never going to be successful because you can't get continuity and you can't get a flow going. You can't get the mojo going on a football team, and you can't go on a run like that when you're constantly looking over your shoulder knowing whether or not this guy's going to get injured. So massive, 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 massive negative news for the Indianapolis Colts. Some bad news for the Eagles, and the Eagles are not going to get a first-round pick for Wentz, because that thing is no way going to be near the amount of plays and the amount of percentage of plays that it would have took for that thing to end up being a first-round draft choice. There's just no way that's going to happen. Now, Rivers comes in. They do well. He gets in there. They go to an AFC championship game. I really don't know what the particulars are when it comes to how they've got the compensation package wired up when it came to, percentage of plays. They make it to an AFC title game, because sometimes language in there also can deter whether or not it escalates to a first round. So we'll just have to wait and see how that thing plays itself out. I mentioned the Eagles. So Devontae Smith looks like he's going to miss 3 to 5 weeks, and they're just being precautious on the wide receiver there in Philadelphia. I've said this before, and I'll say it again, and I'll stick by what I said. Fabulous talent. We had Merrill Reese on the program. We've had Howard Eskin on the program. Pretty much everybody in Philadelphia who's been out to practice has said this: electric. Fantastic. The only difference is when you're playing in the NFC East and you're playing in the NFL, those spacings that you saw in the Southeastern Conference, as great as that conference is, you're not going to be running around in open space like that in the NFL. The free and strong safeties, let alone the cornerback play in the NFL, they're no longer barn door openings for you to be able to catch the football. You're going to be catching everything in tight windows. What does that mean? Contact. You're going to be now in a sport and be put in a position where you're going to be in a contact position if you're Devontae Smith. On top of that, you're adding this into the dynamic. A quarterback who's not the most accurate guy. So think about where you are if you're the Eagles now. You don't really have the most accurate quarterback in the NFL as he tries to find his way. You got a football player that, let's just say this. And by the way, I'm not saying anything injury-wise on him. I'm just telling you, little dudes get beat up by big dudes. It's nature. It's the law of averages. A big dude leaning on a little dude, it's going to end up being a factor. Big teams. When you take a look at, one of the things that has made always the New England Patriots one of the better teams in the NFL, that team is enormous. They are some of the biggest people on the planet. Belichick believes in big dudes. Don't always have to be the tallest. Vince Wilfork's my height, but Vince Wilfork was 365 pounds. This dude had big dudes, Sam Adams, guys in the middle in there, gigantic dudes. His offensive line is 6'5" across. And when you play against little guys, you end up winning that battle, especially in the NFL. Like I told you before, it's not so much a little guys, because the best defensive football player in the NFL is a little guy, Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald's 6 feet. He's the best defensive tackle, like maybe pass rushing wise, in the last 50 years in the NFL is 6 feet, 270. Probably shocks you, doesn't it? You thought that Aaron Donald would be like 6'5". He's 6 feet. 270 pounds. Guy benches 550. I mean, he's a beast. I'm just telling you. I get it all. His quickness is insane. And he gets off the rock like nobody's business. But like I've told you before here, man, okay, he does get worn down as we get into the later part of the year. Why is that? Little dudes get beat down a little bit. You start getting nagging injuries. And so with Davante, I said this on draft day. You have got to make sure you put the Eagles, put him in a position where he has the least amount of contact as possible. I'll give you another guy that was drafted, and I said the same thing. You know the kid Kyle Pitts that came out of Florida? He's not a great blocking tight end. I mean, he and Zach Ertz are probably in the same conversation when it comes to being blocking tight ends. That's not something that's their forte. Zach's probably a little better because of experience. But you're going to have to put him on the weak side, Pitts, if you're Atlanta, and you're going to have to keep him away from your top defensive end to try to think that he's going to chip these defensive ends on pass probe. This guy's going to get eaten up. He got eaten up in the Southeastern Conference when he was lining up against really premier defensive pass rushers. You're going to get eat up in the National Football League when you're taking on premier pass rushers. So you got to keep him also in a position where you create space. That's what the Eagles have to do to Davante. The problem with that is you don't have a running game. Play action's not going to be a factor because no team that the Eagles play against are going to respect play action because you haven't had a running game in 3 years. So what does that mean? You're going to play tighter on Davante. You're going to play more man coverage. And you're going to put a safety over the top to hit him if there is a switch off. And what you're going to try to do is, if I were the Eagles, I'd put him in the short side of the field. Let him have the sideline to get out of bounds. I don't need that guy getting injured or I need that guy getting hurt. Nor do I need a quarterback who's not going to be able to get him the football because he's not the most accurate guy. So my point to the Eagles would be, hey, make sure you do everything in your power to keep him in space. Don't put him in a crowd because eventually that guy's going to get banged up. All right. We're going to talk to Phil Simms and get his thoughts on this Wentz story. Really troubling. You keep it here on the National Football Show.
I get scared sometimes.
Of a lot of things.
Joining in.
Decisions.
The dark.
The dark.
But I once heard someone say,
But as I always say,
it's okay to be afraid.
as long as you face the fear.
And keep moving forward.
Wherever you are in life, count on the name trusted in insurance for over 80 years. Independence Blue Cross.
The savoring taste of a good bag of beef jerky is so enjoyable at any time of the day, as long as you can find it. Here's what we suggest. Pure Bull Beef Jerky is our answer, and soon it will be yours. Locally produced in the Philadelphia region, this high-quality, healthy protein snack is easy to secure. Go to steersnacks.com, and you'll see hot garlic, tropical heat, Pure Bull dry rub, and our favorite, Huck and Fod. What's that? Huck and Fod. Go now to steersnacks.com.
Welcome to the Wildwoods, the perfect place where you can safely do everything or nothing at all. Catch a wave, take a nap, go for a drive, grab a bite. It's your vacation, and we're doing everything we can to make it a safe one. The Wildwoods. Your vacation, your way.
The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local Union 98, is a proud sponsor of The Labor Show with J. Doc and Krause every Saturday night from 6 till 8 p.m. IBEW Local 98's highly trained and superbly skilled electricians are the best in the business, setting the highest safety standards in the electrical industry. So when you're planning your next industrial, commercial, or residential project, choose an IBEW Local 98 union contractor. Learn more at ibew98.org.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
7 on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
This is a key. It's a family tree. It's a pair of wings. It's a secret handshake. And a ticket to anywhere in the world. It's more than a uniform. It's the door to a world most people only dream of. There's Strong, and then there's Army Strong. Try it on at GoArmy.com.
Welcome aboard the National Football Show. Phil Sims will join us in a minute. Yeah, we just tweeted out at Dan Sileo Show and also on the JAKIB Media Twitter page. We had the story on Friday that he was going to go with minor surgery that was going to keep him out the first half of the NFL season. So all these guys, it's great that, now all of a sudden they're jumping in. But this decision was being made, and the Colts were being told this on Friday afternoon, right when we were going on the air Friday. And the surgery took place today. So it went through. The Colts wanted to have one more observation on the foot. And also they were getting the second opinion over the weekend from the Wentz people. And then decision was made by Carson today to have the surgery. But he had already pretty much made the decision, and his people had made the decision. Let's get it out of the way early. And let's see if we can make this thing where we can at least survive the first half of the season and go on and maybe still win the division. So it's a gamble for sure. What do the Colts do when it comes to holding down the fort? They've got the football team. That team won 11 ball games last year, and they were pretty damn good, especially on the defensive side of the football. They get after people. And Jonathan Taylor and that offensive line is going to have to be leaned on. And they're going to have to really be more of a run-dominant team. If I were Frank Wright, I would look at what they're doing in Tennessee. I would look at, hey, Ryan Tannehill has saved his career because why? Derrick Henry's in the room. Tannehill was not going to save his career. Say he goes to Denver. There's nobody in Denver like Derrick Henry. But when you have an offensive line and you've got a coach like Mike Vrabel who understands how to play football, okay, if I were the Colts, I'd take a look at what they're doing at Tennessee. Run that football. You got Jonathan Taylor. You got an offensive line that's ranked in the top 5. You got a defense that's in the top 10. Hold down the fort until you get Wentz. Let's bring in our friend, and I love talking, and there's major news going on right now when it comes to the NFL. You can catch him on CBS. I told my friend Sean McManus that we were having Phil on, and he goes, I think this is going to be one of the greatest years of all time in the NFL. And, Phil, I think it's going to be a super year. I appreciate you doing this, brother. Thank you.
Well, Daniel, thank you. I didn't realize I was going to be on. I just got done working out. I'm not lit well, but, I don't know what to say. Good to see you, and I think Sean is right. I think this year in the NFL, so many good teams, so many unbelievable stories. There will not be a week that goes by as I look at the schedule where we're not going to be excited about 2, 3, or 4 different games. So it's going to be great.
How about this, Phil, the Wentz news? We were talking to Frank, who was going through COVID protocol. I know you know Boomer very well, and that's his boy. And we went to school my freshman year at Maryland, and I've known Frank for over 30-some-odd years. We were talking about COVID, and then I go, what about Wentz? He goes, I think he's going to have to go under the knife. And I went out, and I said that on Friday, and it became official today. Your opinion on the whole deal here with Wentz and the Colts, and give me your assessment on where the Colts should move from here.
Well, first off, when I heard the news, it doesn't make sense to try to manage it or whatever they're thinking. If we can treat it, rest it, and do that, that's just a disaster waiting to happen. Just get it done now. Hope you get him back in time where he can still make an impact on the season. All I keep hearing, Nick Foles, Nick Foles, Nick Foles. And, okay, I don't know what Indianapolis will do. They knew the situation they were in already. Oh, if we lose our starter, we got young guys behind him. Now, Jacob Eason, I remember him well coming out of Washington. Great arm, some really good talent. there were reasons why he didn't go higher in the draft. Probably was more talented than a fourth rounder without question. Just played a little reckless, things like that. But I don't know what to do. I hear you talking right before I came on. Frank's going to run a pretty basic system, even if it was with Carson Wentz. He might have run Carson Wentz a little, but they're going to run the football, manage the game. He's great at it. Formations, comes up with new plays every single week. I know their offense very well. So it's a tough schedule. From what I haven't really looked at it, but I was listening to it today going, wow, what a start they go on. But it'll be interesting. I won't be shocked that they stay with JAKIB Eason and see if he's the guy, or they go out and try to get a veteran, which name me another guy besides Nick Foles, Dan. Who's out there you think you can go get?
I might call Phillip Rivers up and see if Phillip wants to maybe come in and be a substitute teacher. I know he's coaching high school football in Alabama. Phil, they won 11 games with him last year.
I know they did. And I think if and nothing against Phillip Rivers, he did a great job and did exactly what I thought he would do on a really good football team. But if you give Carson Wentz that same schedule, those same situations, I believe they'd have won more than 11. And they might have won the playoff game, too, against the Buffalo Bills. So, one, he's just more athletic, bigger arm, all those things. And, I really feel bad for Carson Wentz. Man, this is really just bad luck. But we'll see how it goes. If it's JAKIB Eason, whoever they decide to go with Carson Wentz, if they can hang in there, then they can make sure he's healthy before they bring him back.
Phil, I looked up your games played prior to coming on, and for 9 years, you didn't miss a ball game until the 90 season. And you started all 14 games that season as well. Durability has to be part of the evaluation when it comes to, building a football team around a guy. Let me throw this at you here. I mean, concussions, MCL, ACL. Now we're talking foot injury, rib injuries. I mean, it just can't be bad luck, right, Phil? I mean, this is a litany of a MASH units list here of injuries for one player here. I mean, look at what's going on in San Francisco with Garoppolo. The only reason they're moving off of Jimmy G is because he's missed 53% of his games in San Francisco. So it's got to be more of a long-term concern, don't you think, if you're the Colts?
Well, listen, like a lot of guys for the Colts, the foot injury, that's just, to me, is truly just bad luck.
Okay.
There's nothing you can do about that. How he hurt it, I don't know. I think he was at practice, planted on his foot, and I really haven't heard the explanation why he hurt it. But the other ones, Dan, in this day and age for quarterbacks, the way the league is designed, the way they're coaching the quarterback, live to play the next play and throw it away. Don't take a hit. That's what it's all about. Don't take a hit. And Carson Wentz plays. I guess it's the only way to really I can say that makes sense. He's reckless. I mean, it's all over the place with his body. He played that way at North Dakota State. He got injured up there. And, you got to make a business decision. And there's many quarterbacks. And I would say, watch Aaron Rodgers play. And, he's going to play as many years as he wants because he doesn't take hits. He just throws everything off his back foot. Even if you hit him, it's not going to hurt. He's going to get rid of the football. He can move, all those things. And that's what the league is right now. They are catering to the quarterbacks. And I'm not jealous. This is just the facts. And I'm glad because everybody loves the game more because of the stars that are playing the quarterback position. But it's catered to the quarterback to stay on the field, to do everything they can to make sure they don't get hurt.
Let's go into the NFC East here a little bit, Phil. I think the Giants and the Washington team, I think these two teams have the best defenses in that division.
Right.
And Ryan Fitzpatrick, if you can get some magic like he did when he was with the Jets a couple of years back, they're probably the favorites to repeat. Give me what you think of the Philadelphia Eagles and where they are right now. I mean, I can't believe this thing is unraveled in 3 years. 3 years ago, they had the best O-line, D-line combination in the league. And here we are sitting here, new coach. They fired a guy, won a Super Bowl 3 years ago. The quarterback's out of the room. I mean, give me your thoughts going into the 2021 season for the Eagles.
Well, Devontae Smith is now out for a couple of weeks with the MCL, I heard. So today I was on the car driving home. I went, oh, my gosh. I loved him so much at Alabama. I loved watching him on TV. I studied him. I said, oh, my gosh, he is he's got it all. So I feel bad for him. But hey, that team you're talking about, the Eagles, they were old then and they got older. And, those injuries happen. And they're really, the Eagles were almost an old school football team. They were massive on both sides of the ball, O-line, D-line, whatever. And I think age really crept in there and got them. They made some really bad decisions, I think, with personnel. So I think what the path they're on, Dan, is now they're going to try to rebuild this team again. And, I think I'm sure you talk about it a lot. They're going to be in the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes.
Yes.
So that'll be interesting too. You get him right away, that cures a lot of things. And so it'll be interesting. I think, to me, they would be the least favorite or the one in my eyes in the NFC East by far. I think the Giants defense, like Washington, the Giants defense is so organized, so disciplined, and really did such a great job last year. Man, a little bit of talent. And if they keep that up, that's going to be interesting. And I think the Giants, Washington, of course, Dallas. Look, I worry about Dak. I do. I think I tweeted out, and I'm not a big guy that does it, but his arm hurts. Right foot, plant foot, power foot, all that for a thrower. To me, when I see him on TV out at Cowboy camp and he's running, it looks like he's limping.
Yeah.
And that's what I see. And nobody ever says a word about it. But trust me, and even when I tweeted out, not to go on about this, but I said, these things happen. And I said, I've been there. I had a high ankle sprain in 1989. I never had a sore arm in my life. But once I got that high ankle sprain on my right foot, my arm hurt like the worst toothache you've ever had in the world. And it never went away. And it affected my play, that's for sure, too. So we'll see what happens with Dak in that right arm.
Phil, let me take you to Green Bay here. And maybe it's just because the quarterback position has made it so now where social media, it's more vocal. Maybe it's also organization. I knew Wellington Mara very well, and I know that you did too. The Mara family and the Tisch family exceptionally well. George Young, I believe, took over for my uncle when you just got there too.
Right.
So there was a structure that was in the building there in New York. Did you ever have bitching sessions about personnel or about the way the Giants did things? Or again, I don't mean bitching sessions, but hey, I really like that guy. That guy was, I had Warren Moon on yesterday, and he said he used to talk to Ken Herrick a lot when they were talking about personnel settings. Why did you cut this guy? Just for my own, because I thought he was really fitting into our offense. Did you work with the guys like that sometimes behind the scenes? Because maybe it's just because it's public today.
Okay. Now, I want you to think about that question you just asked me. Okay, let's see. George Young and Bill Parcells. Okay.
Okay. Fair enough.
All right. Come on. That it wasn't even ever ventured, talked about, in my opinion, was never asked one time about one player or anything. Sims, shut up. You're having enough troubles just being a quarterback. Just try to do your job, okay? So, no, I never brought anything up. Never had any say in anything like that. I did have some say a lot, of course, like all quarterbacks do, in plays. I designed plays, pass protections. That was great. That was a great give and take between me and my coaches. But no, personnel move, that, nothing. And look, Aaron Rodgers, it's not that he wants to really be the general manager. I don't know exactly what the true story is, but there were some words said to him that weren't true. And I think that's where the whole rift comes to. I think they had like an agreement, just me guessing, and that agreement was not, the agreement was broken, and that's why we saw the discontent from Aaron Rodgers this offseason. Now listen, Aaron Rodgers is back up there. If you want to win a Super Bowl, that's the place you can do it. You're not going to any other team to win a Super Bowl out there. That's just my opinion. Is he going to go to the Denver Broncos and all of a sudden they're going to win the Super Bowl? No. And he's got to teach everybody their offense, what he likes and all this. Man, that would be some transition, in a short period of time. So Aaron Rodgers is at the best place. And I always love this one. It drives me crazy, Dan. Oh, he was so motivated last year. Oh, yeah, all those other great years, he wasn't motivated. Look, he is a guy that wants to be the star. He's one of the greatest throwers we've ever seen in NFL history. And yeah, he had an all-pro year last year because Matt LaFleur designed more plays, made the offense better, and gave him more opportunities, and everything just worked out with the team where it let him become who he always has been, one of the best quarterbacks in the league and one of the best we've ever seen.
You know, Phil, I have to ask this because I'm listening to you say that, and yet, you know what? I knew guys in your locker room when, and this may be a touchy subject for you too, when in 91, they decided to go with Hostetler. And I remember when I was in the NFL, I went like this. You've got to be kidding me. I mean, that guy's a substitute. I'm not throwing shade on your former teammate, Phil. I'm just saying that guy's a substitute teacher at best. Phil's the dude. When you're a player like that, Phil, how do you handle that sitting there trying to be a good teammate when you know you were the better guy standing there on the sidelines?
Well, you know, I don't know what to say there. To be really honest, and which I've never really talked about this that much in this respect, you know, my foot injury that I broke in 1990 against the Buffalo Bills, when you know it, during a regular season game, you know, my foot was not completely ready to go. It hurt in practice, all those things, but that was not part of the decision. In other words, I never told anybody. I said, I'm going to do this. I'm not going to go to the trainer's room. I iced my foot on my own, did all that because I didn't want them going, oh, your foot. But
wow,
it's a big story. You know, one day I'll just say this, Dan, just read my book and I'll tell you a lot of good things that happened in my career. And even the year the Giants let me go, I'll tell that story. It's another good one. And
boy, I want to hear that one because everyone in the NFL went like this. Hey, man, Hostetler's a good dude, but that dude is not 11.
Well, they let me go after the 93 season, though, so that was a whole different thing, too. We had a really good year in 93, 11-5, could have won more, lost that overtime game in the last game of the year against the Dallas Cowboys, who were just absolutely loaded on both sides of the ball. And there we had them at our stadium. It was one of the greatest atmospheres I ever played in the NFL, really. And when we didn't win that game, I knew we weren't going to the Super Bowl because we couldn't go through the wild card thing. We did beat the Minnesota Vikings on an unbelievably cold, windy day at Giant Stadium, but we weren't going to win the Super Bowl. But if we beat the Cowboys, that team might have surprised. Come to Giant Stadium. You've been there many times, and hey, the cold, the crowd, everything about it, that would even the playing field for us, and it did, practically against anybody.
Couple last questions for you, Phil. You know, we mentioned a place that Aaron Rodgers could go. I'm going to say this to you. I think Cleveland may be the most loaded roster in the NFL. Do you think that Baker Mayfield is the guy there in Cleveland to take them to a Super Bowl? You do?
I do. No hesitation. You know, I listen to everybody on TV and radio. If I'm sitting here, which I am at my desk right now, and I'm going over the draft, I got to see here. I'm going over the Atlanta Falcons draft and writing down everything about all the players they drafted and all that. But, you know, it's going to be it's just going to be interesting. What was the team you asked me about? I'm sorry.
Cleveland and Mayfield. Do you think he's the guy?
Yeah. Listen, Baker Mayfield, he had success because they run the ball and it was play action pass. Listen, when he had to drop back and in games when they drop back and that's how they won, he threw the ball great. And he's mobile. I think he's a leader of men. He's got that edge that you want. And his arm, listen, he's a top-notch thrower. He can let it go. Yes, it was awful the year before. The coaching staff, he wasn't in the shape he should have been. He was overthrowing for some reason. Baker's one of those guys that throwing it really hard and perfect, it's just not good enough. I want to throw it harder. And when he does that, it does get away from him. But last year, I talked to him on CBS and interviewed him. I said, come on, tell me, yes or no. Are you throwing the ball better right now this year than you ever have in your life? And he goes, oh, without question. Immediately came out of his mouth. Do you remember the game they played on Monday night against the Giants?
I do.
Well, they were flat as could be.
Yep.
And Baker Mayfield must have made 10 throws in that game where the window was small, but his confidence and his accuracy and everything was off the charts last year. And he was throwing it in those tight windows. And he did have a couple of rough games, but he played them in tornado weather. You know, people got to look at that too. You can look back at a couple of bad games he had in Cleveland. You know, I don't know. I think Giant Stadium is bad. Buffalo's bad. But I think I'd put Cleveland right there at the top when you can play in a lot of bad weather there.
Yeah, old Giant Stadium, though, when they had the doors open, when you guys used to play those games by leaving them doors open and closed for the opposing.
Well, people say that all the time. And teams hired people to watch the doors. I'm like, oh, come on, give us a break. But, you know, again, Dan, to go back to Baker, I really do believe in him. And the talent is real. What a draft class of quarterbacks that they got from that year. You know, so that's it. He's proven to be, not saying he was the best one of the group, because Josh Allen is unbelievable too, but Baker Mayfield's holding his end up, that's for sure.
Final question for you, Phil. I asked Warren this question too on Friday, and I'm going to ask you. You know, you're hearing quarterbacks now, and vaccinations are going to be a major part of the season. Again, This is not stumping for either side. I'm not telling anybody here. That's not what I'm doing. However, I'm asking you as a former starting quarterback and a face of a franchise. Dak's come out. He's quoting HIPAA laws. Josh Allen is coming out saying that's a personal decision. You're hearing other quarterbacks around the league saying the same stuff, that it's a personal decision. Do you believe it's the quarterback's position to have and be the face of this, to have everybody vaccinated? Because, my God almighty, can you imagine losing a quarterback if he's not vaccinated and you're making a playoff run and all of a sudden you don't have Phil Simms the last 2 weeks of the season and I'm playing some nobody guy and it costs me an opportunity? If I'm a D lineman, O lineman, I'm pissed off at my quarterback because my incentives are also lined up with you on making it to the postseason. Percentage of plays, wins, offensive running, all of that stuff is on the quarterback. Do you think they should be the face of this?
Well, it's going to be interesting. I'll say this. I worked with Warren Sapp for quite a few years on Showtime. He said this one time, he goes, never talk about somebody's family or their money. And I just went, okay, you know, that is a great thing. Never talk about another player money. Just do what you do for yourself. And of course, don't talk about their family. And I kind of feel that way now. If I was still playing, let's say, I don't think I would stand up in front of the team and go, hey, everybody here has got to get vaccinated. I don't think I could do it, because I think what you're talking about, personal decisions. Yep. It's not, hey, even though it could affect our team or whatever, because you're not, you know, you just got to let people do what they really believe in. And it's their right. But this is going to be interesting where it goes. That's for sure. I don't know what percentage, it's over 80% in the NFL now is vaccinated.
Yep.
But there's going to be a group of guys that are not going to do it. And because they've seen the other side, that people got vaccinated and it caused another illness or whatever. And so I don't know what to say, Dan. I don't think it's the quarterback's role to stand up and preach and tell everybody they have to do it for the team and all this. That's for the head coach, ownership, or whoever wants to do it. But I think if you want to stay in good standing and be the leader of men, you better watch what you say in situations like this.
Phil, I want to show you something.
Oh, man,
I know you have one of these. See this right here? This is my...
Oh, yeah.
This is my uncle's. This is his Ring of Honor jersey when he went into the Ring of Honor.
That's awesome.
For the New York Giants. They got a little pin up here in the corner here. So this was given to me by his brother saying, look, I know Andy would want you to have this. And I know you got one of these, man. This is pretty dope, man. I got this a couple weeks ago, and I'm like, I got a Ring of Honor New York Giants jersey. How you doing?
I love it. You know what? Listen, your father, first off, a great man, a tremendous player. There's no doubt about it. But, man, listen, the name Robustelli, does that not sound like an NFL player? And it sure doesn't sound like a quarterback. It sounds like somebody's going to knock your head off. So, man, that is great. And it really, I saw a game just by accident my rookie year on TV the other day. And, man, those old Giant uniforms, they look great.
I love those old Giant uniforms.
The stripe on the big, thick stripe on the leg. I just said, wow, why did we change? I love that damn uniform. And
I loved your uniforms too, though, Phil. I love that giant thing on the side of the helmet, man. I thought,
Yeah,
those
me
things,
too. I'm not being. It's not all
Yeah.
our. No, I like the word Giants on it more than I do what they have now. I absolutely do. And every time I see it, when I see it, the old one of our, I said, man, I just like the Giants on the side of the helmet more. And I have many, many people that say the same thing to me.
Yeah,
So
I love that. I love that stuff. Phil, thanks for spending time with me, brother. I appreciate it, man. Tell
All right.
Boomer I said hi, brother. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll tell Boomer something. It won't be high. Okay.
Thank you, man. That's
All
my
right.
boy. You bet. That's my guy, Phil Sims. We'll take a brief time out. You keep it here on the National Football Show.
I get scared sometimes.
Of a lot of things.
Joining in.
Decisions.
The dark.
The dark.
But I once heard someone say,
But as I always say,
it's okay to be afraid
as long as you face the fear.
and keep moving forward.
Wherever you are in life, count on the name trusted in insurance for over 80 years. Independence Blue Cross.
The savoring taste of a good bag of beef jerky is so enjoyable at any time of the day, as long as you can find it. Here's what we suggest. Pure Bull beef jerky is our answer, and soon it will be yours. Locally produced in the Philadelphia region, this high-quality, healthy protein snack is easy to secure. Go to steersnacks.com, and you'll see hot garlic, tropical heat, Pure Bull dry rub, and our favorite, Huck and Fod. What's that? Huck and Fod. Go now to steersnacks.com.
Welcome to the Wildwoods, the perfect place where you can safely do everything or nothing at all. Catch a wave, take a nap, go for a drive, grab a bite. It's your vacation, and we're doing everything we can to make it a safe one. The Wildwoods. Your vacation, your way.
The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local Union 98, is a proud sponsor of The Labor Show with J. and Krause every Saturday night from 6 till 8 p.m. IBEW Local 98's highly trained and superbly skilled electricians are the best in the business, setting the highest safety standards in the electrical industry. So when you're planning your next industrial, commercial, or residential project, choose an IBEW Local 98 union contractor. Learn more at ibew98.org.
On the field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
This is a key. It's a family tree. It's a pair of wings. It's a secret handshake. And a ticket to anywhere in the world. It's more than a uniform. It's the door to a world most people only dream of. There's Strong, and then there's Army Strong. Try it on at GoArmy.com.
Welcome back to the National Football Show. Dan Sileo. You really do feel for Frank Wright. Hey, I can hear Eagle Guy going, screw that dude. That guy's left us in a lurch. Hey, man, you could look at it that way, or you could look at it, man, thank God we got out from under that. Okay? You know, it's funny. Sometimes people don't want to see people have success at other places. Are you happy Andy Reid had a Super Bowl win with the Kansas City Chiefs, or does that still rub you the wrong way? Or how about Dick Vermeil winning a Super Bowl with the St. Louis Rams? Does that rub you the wrong way? Or are you happy because those two guys were basically known for being Philadelphia coaches? Watch this. Dick Vermeil's not known for being the St. Louis Rams head coach. He's known for being the Eagles coach and being a UCLA coach. You think Andy Reid is really, when people look back on Andy Reid's career, They're going to go, he won in Kansas City. But he was an Eagle head coach. I don't care how you slice it up. Well, he's had more success. Well, yeah, because he's had a better quarterback. And not to throw shade on Donovan. He's just better, Mahomes. I'll say this to you about Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes is the greatest, most talented quarterback I've ever seen in NFL history. I didn't say he was the best quarterback. I said he's the most gifted. There's just things he does with the football that really nobody's ever seen. Guy's ambidextrous. He throws with both hands. He's not really even considered really a guy who reads defenses all that hot yet, and he's learning that progression now, and he's learning that process. He made the point, this offseason where he said, I'm really starting to pick up reading defenses. That's scary great. And that means he's working on the cerebral part of the game. He doesn't really have to work on his physical attributes in the game. Those are just God gifts. When you throw the ball like that and you move around like that, and you know what the intangible is also about him? That's maybe different than every other quarterback, including Tom Brady. It doesn't matter what the lead is with that guy. You know what? Can I compare an athlete to Patrick Mahomes? He's kind of like Steph Curry. This guy changes the game. I mean, all of a sudden you'll see 13 threes. Nobody's done that before, right? Steph Curry's the greatest perimeter shooter in the history of the sport, and that includes Jerry West. He is. And that includes Larry Bird. He's the greatest perimeter shooter of all time. He's the greatest three-point shooter for sure. Statistically, it's already him. I mean, this is what this kid Mahomes is like. How many times have we seen Mahomes down 13, 14, 28? Still comes back and wins ball games. Playoff games, too. Let's not forget something here. Kansas City Chiefs have been to 3 straight AFC championship games. They're on the cusp of doing something that the Bills did. That's going to 4 straight AFC title games. They got a Super Bowl wedged in that whole thing there, too. You're talking about a junior dynasty here a little bit in Kansas City. And this is all because of the quarterback that they have under center here. And I talked to Jimmy Johnson over the weekend, and Jimmy says he's the greatest talented player I've ever seen. I said, most talented? And he's like, that's right. Remember, most talented, not the best. Brady's got the silverware, and he's got the hardware to dispute anything when anyone talks about playing the position. You see, I think when people get into trouble when we start talking about the greatest players at their respective positions like quarterback, there is a distinction. Who's the most gifted? You would not consider Tom Brady to be one of the most athletic players ever to play the position, would you? I would surely not say that. Peyton Manning included. These guys couldn't jump over rulers. And yet we're talking here about winning versus athleticism. I think there's a distinction. Very rarely do you bow that up and put it in a box and say, we got it all in one here. Mahomes is learning the position still, which is crazy frightening. It's crazy frightening. Brady had to build his body up into the position, right? Brady had the mindset. That was already something that was instilled in the kid. That's why the quarterback position is one of the hardest positions to evaluate. You know why? Because you can't evolve or evaluate a quarterback and how he sees the game. You try when you take him to all these quarterback schools, or when you take him to the combine, you have a pro day. You're hoping you see it then. But it's very rarely that you can just drop everything in a box and go, man, this guy sees the game and he is athletic. Like Elway. Elway's another one of those guys. Like a Patrick Mahomes. Rocket gun, fast as hell, durable, big. I mean, had a cannon for a gun. I mean, you just don't find that. Marino was not very athletic. Hell of an arm. He was like Namath. Mahomes is the best player I've ever seen athletically at that position. I mean, he's just we were talking about it, Jimmy and I, over the weekend. I mean, again, there's a different conversation on who the greatest is at that position and who's the most athletic. All right. We're going to take a brief time out here. We're going to go over the top 5 teams in college football. College football is a wreck right now. The Buffalo Bills are doing something to their fans that I thought they'd never do. And John Gruden, I want to throw some stats at you. Also, Jason Cole's going to join us in hour 2. Our Pro Football Insider will get his thoughts on all this stuff going on with Carson Wentz, Devontae Smith. We'll go around the league also. That's all coming up. You keep it here on the National Football Show.
I get scared sometimes.
Of a lot of things.
Joining in.
Decisions.
The dark.
The dark.
But I once heard someone say,
But as I always say,
it's okay to be afraid.
as long as you face the fear.
And keep moving forward.
Wherever you are in life, count on the name trusted in insurance for over 80 years. Independence Blue Cross.
The savoring taste of a good bag of beef jerky is so enjoyable at any time of the day, as long as you can find it. Here's what we suggest. Pure Bull beef jerky is our answer, and soon it will be yours. Locally produced in the Philadelphia region, this high-quality, healthy protein snack is easy to secure. Go to steersnacks.com, and you'll see hot garlic, tropical heat, Pure Bull dry rub, and our favorite, Huck and Fod. What's that? Huck and Fod. Go now to steersnacks.com.
Welcome to the Wildwoods, the perfect place where you can safely do everything or nothing at all. Catch a wave, take a nap, go for a drive, grab a bite. It's your vacation, and we're doing everything we can to make it a safe one. The Wildwoods. Your vacation, your way.
The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local Union 98, is a proud sponsor of The Labor Show with J. and Krause every Saturday night from 6 till 8 p.m. IBEW Local 98's highly trained and superbly skilled electricians are the best in the business, setting the highest safety standards in the electrical industry. So when you're planning your next industrial, commercial, or residential project, choose an IBEW Local 98 union contractor. Learn more at ibew98.org.
On the field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
This is a key. It's a family tree. It's a pair of wings. It's a secret handshake. And a ticket to anywhere in the world. It's more than a uniform. It's the door to a world most people only dream of. There's Strong, and then there's Army Strong. Try it on at GoArmy.com.
Welcome back to the National Football Show. Dan Sileo, Jason Cole, bottom of the hour, our Pro Football Insider. Hall of Fame game this Thursday, I believe. Steelers and Cowboys. Exhibition season's here, friends. So is the induction speeches this weekend for the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I tweeted out, my coach is going into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, Jimmy Johnson. I posted a letter I got when we were all supposed to report for Jimmy Johnson and Jerry Jones' very first training camp in Thousand Oaks, California. Hard to believe that Jimmy, from 1-15, from that day in Thousand Oaks when we all reported, is going to be standing with a gold jacket this weekend telling us his journey and his story about making it to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. You know, I would say this to you about just a little bit here about JJ. I just wished one thing. I wish Jimmy would have, and you know what I realized too? If you're a product of his machine, his environment, which I am, you don't really get a chance to enjoy your life much and the things that you've accomplished because it's such a grind. It's such a pushing to excellence, and you don't really get a chance to look around you. And I'm one of hundreds of players that coach and coaches that were around him that I wish if there were one thing, and he said this yesterday, if there were one thing that he could have done more, that would be, for him to have enjoyed it just a little bit more and let us all enjoy it. Maybe we wouldn't have had the success, though. I don't know. But I enjoyed being around him. And, I was talking to Alonzo Highsmith, the guy I played with, third pick in the NFL draft with the Houston Oilers back in the day. And we're all like this now. My coach is a Hall of Famer. I was coached by a Pro Football Hall of Famer. And it's quite a testament. And I won with him. It was pretty incredible that he would have the success that he had at both the college and pro level. Not a shocker, but he's such a winner. I mean it. And the things that he did and said to you. And, it's funny. I'm being considered for the Florida Sports Hall of Fame now. And I had to get a couple of guys that were going to, help nominate me. One was Bruce Arians, and I posted it on my Twitter page. And Bruce was kind enough to do it for me. Dave Wannstedt, of course, would do it. And Jimmy. And Bobby Bowden, too. Coach is awesome. Prayers out to him for sure. But you can always tell one thing. Coaches that are your friends, not just while you're playing, but coaches that are people that are your mentors and people that stay with you for the rest of your life. Those are true coaches. And those are true friends. And those are the people that they look at and they say this, I got the very best out of that guy. It's really quite humbling. And again, one of hundreds of guys. But every one of us are so proud of that moment. And Troy Aikman's going to be introducing him this weekend. Troy says it's the greatest honor he's ever had. That includes being inducted. He's going to be introducing Jimmy Johnson to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I guarantee you Troy gets emotional this weekend when he does that. It's going to be cool to see. I'm so looking forward to that. I know with COVID restrictions, a lot of guys aren't going to be able to get to Canton. But I think it's going to be a pretty incredible moment when they see JJ go into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. All right, I want to get into a couple other topics here. We talked about Carson Wentz. We'll reset that topic here as we get down with Jason Cole at the bottom of the hour. And we'll talk about Devontae Smith's injury. Phil said MCL. I didn't hear that. I heard it was precautionary. Now, you got to remember something. Phil's listening to the New York media. So the New York media, they may be adding that. I didn't hear MCL. Now, unless something has popped up lately here over the last hour, I thought it was just precautionary that they were holding him out for the next couple weeks. Phil's based in New York, and, anything Philadelphia, the world's falling in, and, the Eagles are imploding on them. You're not going to get the best reports and the most reliable reports when you're living in the New York area about the Philadelphia Eagles. Like I tell people before, I don't know. I know everybody thinks that the Eagles' rival is the Dallas Cowboys. It ain't. It's the New York Giants. And same with the Giants. It's not the Cowboys. It's the Eagles. It's always been the Eagles. It will always be the Eagles. Those two are enemies. They're rivals forever. No matter what the names on the back of the jersey say. Those two, you add in the Cowboys, sure, okay. But it's Eagles and Giants. The networks try to convince you it's Cowboys and Giants and Cowboys and Eagles. It's not true. Everybody who lives in Philly and everybody who lives in the New York area knows it's Eagles and Giants. It will always will be. No matter until the league ends, it'll be. Like Cowboys and Packers and Bears, Eagles and Giants. It's what it is. Okay. So let me throw this at you. A couple guys that, I keep having this conversation with people about John Gruden. I had a guy yesterday actually tell me he thought he was a good coach. And then I started looking up his numbers, and I started looking at where this guy is in the room when it comes to being a good coach. John Gruden's got a Super Bowl championship. He surely does. So does George Seifert, though. You think George Seifert's a great coach? And I said this a couple weeks ago to you. You think John Gruden's a better coach than Dick Vermeil? You think John Gruden's a better coach than Marty Schottenheimer? Boy, I surely don't. There's no way I think they're better than those coaches. Marty Schottenheimer, I don't know, in his 20-some-odd years, I don't know how many losing seasons he had, but I think you can count them on 3 fingers. Maybe. I think he had 1. Vermeil turned around a sorry-ass Eagle program. Then he turned around a sorry-ass Rams program in St. Louis. Took 2 teams to the Super Bowl, 2 different teams to a Super Bowl, wins one of them in St. Louis. I mean, those coaches were spectacular coaches. John Gruden, here, let me throw a stat at you. John Gruden, do you know since he's been back as the head coach of the Raiders, he's 10 games under 500 after Thanksgiving? He's 10 games under 500. Your teams are getting worse as the season ends. The great teams ramp up and are always getting better. Look at what happened last year with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Bucs got better after the Bears game, and they never looked back. These Raider teams, do you know there's only 2 Pro Bowlers on that team? When John Gruden took over, there were 7. He's got 2. There's less talent. What did you do with the Khalil Mack and the Amari Cooper deals? All those first-rounders that you got a halfway decent running back, and the rest of the guys that you got in return for those players are marginal. And that's why you have a 19-29 record as the head coach of the Raiders since you've been back / Oakland, Las Vegas. John Gruden has not lived up. Now, Mark Davis came out today and said he's not under any hot seat or anything this year at all when it comes to the team. Okay, Mark, then when? Was this just a move to hire a TV star so that you could make your transition to Vegas? You needed a TV star as your head coach? That's what they did here. That's what this looks like. You needed a big-name guy as you were leaving Oakland to go to Vegas so that it was kind of star-driven to go to the glamour lights of Las Vegas. You don't have a good coach in the room. He's a marginal guy, man. Like I said to you, if you take away that record of the first year he got to Tampa Bay, the 12-4 record, I believe they were 12-4 when they won the Super Bowl. You take that season away, John Gruden is under 500 as a head football coach as we look at his overall record. That guy's not a Hall of Fame guy. And we've all been, because he was on TV. See, you get on TV, you get a different narrative written about you. Same thing with Aaron Boone. You look at a guy like Aaron Boone, and Aaron Boone is a guy that, okay, you think he's the right guy for the Yankees? Come on, man. By the way, I just turned my phone over. Steve Spurrier called. So hopefully we're getting Coach on. I'd love to get him on tomorrow. That guy is a great college coach. John Gruden is not. John Gruden is not a great coach. John Gruden is a good BS artist. When you look at him, what's his crowning achievement? Taking Tony Dungy's Buccaneers to the Super Bowl? Okay. Now, I will say this to you. Tony couldn't do it. John did it, so maybe there's a feather in his hat there. But I would tell you flat out here, I don't know, man. I think John Gruden, you're 10 games under 500 after Turkey Day. Bro, you got to win some ball games, man. You got to win some ball games. All right, let's go over to the college game. And the college game is just in ruin right now. And I know it's in ruin. And when you look at the conferences and you look at all these teams that are making decisions on where they're going to play ball and, going after and rating other conferences, it's really right now pretty ugly, because right now everybody's looking to grab a life preserver to keep their conferences alive. Just think about this for a second, though, too. I said this last week about the NCAA. Where are they? Where are they in this conversation? Where are they? You're allowing a TV network to rip apart the Big 12, and they can't do anything about it. You know why? They're not going to go after ESPN. They're not going to go after the Southeastern Conference. They'll laugh at them. They need them. So what is the NCAA going to do? The NCAA is just going to sit back and not make waves. You notice how they've been flying under the radar? They're not even commenting on this stuff. I mean, college football this year, these conferences, the Southeastern Conference has 10 times more power than the SEC, or the SEC has 10 times more power than the NCAA. Big Ten too, Pac-12 too. They run the game. NCAA doesn't. They're kind of like a traffic cop for the money. Honestly, you know what they are? They're like a bookie. They get their vig, and then the rest of the conferences get their money. Like loan sharks. The NCAA are like loan sharks. And that's how they've acted, and now it's being exposed that way. When somebody asked me the question, and I vote on the top 25 college football teams on a weekly basis, just so you know. And we'll be doing that weekly. I vote on them. And they were asking me for the top 5. I go, dude, what do you mean top 5? Come on. Bama, Clemson, Ohio State. You could put them in any order you want, depending on what part of the country you're in. Maybe your team's number 1. Maybe you think Clemson will be number 1 because Ohio State and Alabama are breaking in new quarterbacks. You got a rookie quarterback or a freshman quarterback a year ago at Clemson. We had Dabo Swinney on last Monday, who says that he thinks he's going to have a phenomenal year. All right. Well, Clemson, could they be number 1? Sure. But those are your top 3 teams. And if you want to look back over the last, watch this, over the last 15 years, you think that narrative has changed? Those 3 teams? Those 3 teams, you can put them in any order. Then you got Georgia and Oregon. That's who I got, 4 and 5. Doesn't matter, really. Here, what do you think of the odds of Bama, Clemson, or Ohio State winning a national championship this year? 70%? One of those 3 teams? My money will go on one of those 3 teams, and you guys can have the field. Think of that. There's 135 college football Division I programs in America. I'll take those 3, and you can have the field. And I'll bet you $1,000 one of those 3 teams win the national championship. You think somebody's just going to come out of nowhere? Name me a team over the last 20 years that has come from nowhere to win a title. Can you? Let's see. It's either been SC, 20 years. Bama, LSU. Okay. You know the last non-Power 5 team to win a national championship was? 1985. BYU. College football made it so that was never going to happen ever again. Ever again was that going to happen, a non-Power 5 win the national title. That BYU team that went to the Holiday Bowl and beat a 6-6 Michigan team, that was never going to happen again. And it's been that way since. It's just been that way. So naming you the top 5 teams, come on, man. Stupid. All right, let's move on then. I saw this story in typical NFL. By the way, we'll address this with Jason Cole in a couple minutes too. So the Buffalo Bills, since the Wilson family, when Ralph Wilson was one of the founding owners of the AFL's Buffalo Bills, Rich Stadium has been one of the best stadiums in all of the NFL. I've played in it a few times, and I've gone up there and played. It's a great environment. And Bills Mafia is really one of the great fan bases in all the NFL. It really is, man. It's a great place. And I'll tell you this, if you go up there and you watch an NFL game during the football season, that community so loves it. They just absolutely love that football team. They have such a massive passion for the Bills. It's incredible. Well, now the Bills have done something that's standard NFL. They did it in San Diego. They did it in St. Louis. And they did it in Oakland. Think of this for a second, too. An old AFL city like Oakland, they moved the Raiders out. Okay? San Diego, an old AFL city, they moved the Chargers out. Don't think in your wildest dreams that the National Football League wouldn't move the Bills in 10 seconds if they could get a better opportunity. They just move. Like, how about this? Moving the Bills to Atlantic City. I'm just throwing that in there. That's not something that's on the table. I'll tell you what is. But here's the problem. Do you know how you get a football team to move? You go to the taxpayers in those areas and you say that you have to pay for the stadium. It's the fastest way on the planet to get your ticket out of town. There was no way on the planet, and I'll say this to you, you will never see an NFL stadium ever built in two states, California and New York. Ever. Why do you think the New York Giants and New York Jets play in Jersey? They don't play in New York. They call themselves the New York Giants and New York Jets, but they're not based in New York. They're based in Jersey. There's only one team that's based in New York, and it is the Bills. With the taxes that are in that state, around that area, there is no way you're going to push a bill across, and all those legislators in Albany and in Buffalo, you think you're going to get taxpayer money in a state that's lost numerous businesses because of the pandemic to fund a $2 billion stadium in Buffalo, New York? Never happened. 3 years, the Bills will be out of Buffalo. Here, and did you see people are saying Austin, Texas? Austin, Texas, in between the McNair family in Houston and Jerry Jones's family in Dallas. So you mean to tell me you think you're going to put a football team 190 miles from Dallas in Jerry's neck of the woods? No way in the world is that happening. You're either going to use the cities of St. Louis or Toronto as hostage to get your stadium built. Okay? And could they move the Bills to London instead of the Jags? That's a possibility. You know, the NFL wants to have a team in London. Bills or Jags. Depending on, hey, they may move both the Bills and the Jags to London. This may be the NFL's plan. Bills and Jags to London. Let's talk to our friend Jason Cole. We'll talk Wentz. We'll talk about this issue with the Bills. We'll go around the NFL. Our friend Jason Cole is next. You keep it here on the National Football Show.
I get scared sometimes.
Of a lot of things.
Joining in.
Decisions.
The dark.
The dark.
But I once heard someone say,
But as I always say,
it's okay to be afraid.
as long as you face the fear.
And keep moving forward.
Wherever you are in life, count on the name trusted in insurance for over 80 years. Independence Blue Cross.
The savoring taste of a good bag of beef jerky is so enjoyable at any time of the day, as long as you can find it. Here's what we suggest. Pure Bull Beef Jerky is our answer, and soon it will be yours. Locally produced in the Philadelphia region, this high-quality, healthy protein snack is easy to secure. Go to steersnacks.com, and you'll see hot garlic, tropical heat, Pure Bull dry rub, and our favorite, Huck and Fod. What's that? Huck and Fod. Go now to steersnacks.com.
Welcome to the Wildwoods, the perfect place where you can safely do everything or nothing at all. Catch a wave, take a nap, go for a drive, grab a bite. It's your vacation, and we're doing everything we can to make it a safe one. The Wildwoods. Your vacation, your way.
The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local Union 98, is a proud sponsor of The Labor Show with J. and Krause every Saturday night from 6 till 8 p.m. IBEW Local 98's highly trained and superbly skilled electricians are the best in the business, setting the highest safety standards in the electrical industry. So when you're planning your next industrial, commercial, or residential project, choose an IBEW Local 98 union contractor. Learn more at IBEW98.org.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on three. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
This is a key. It's a family tree. It's a pair of wings. It's a secret handshake. And a ticket to anywhere in the world. It's more than a uniform. It's the door to a world most people only dream of. There's Strong, and then there's Army Strong. Try it on at GoArmy.com.
Welcome back to the National Football Show. Dan Sileo. Tomorrow's Tom Brady's 44th birthday. Bruce Arians has given him the day off. Training camp just started. Brady gets the day off. Of course he does. You think Tom Brady takes the day off, though? Does that guy come off like he takes days off? Does it? Does that guy come off like that? That guy doesn't come off like he takes days off. Bruce said this. He goes, Tom's really... He understands the offense a little more. He understands where to throw the football a little better. Everybody's more on the same page. How frightening is that? Just to think about where he was a year ago, where they were doing everything Zoom conference call, and it still resulted in those guys winning a Super Bowl. I've already heard Mike Evans say that he's already better than he was a year ago, because there's more of a familiarity with everybody that's on the football field. Gronk, too. You got to remember something about Gronkowski. I think Gronk's going to have a great year this year. I'll tell you why. I think he's going to be a sleeper for you fantasy guys out there. Remember, this guy had taken a year off. And if you think you're going to be able to get yourself back into any kind of shape, it took him the entire year. Okay? It took him the entire year to get himself back into shape, football shape. And that's why you started seeing Gronk towards the end of the year. The guy became more of a factor in the blocking game, and he became more of a factor in the passing game. It took him all that time. I think this year, Gronk's going to have a – let's not forget something else here. If you take a look at Travis Kelce's age and you take a Rob Gronkowski's age, these guys are not that far apart in age. You would think Travis Kelce's 10 years younger than Gronk. It's not true. These guys are like 31, 32. They're both right around that same age. Yeah, man. I think Gronk's going to have a hell of a season this year. I think he's going to really, in my opinion, I think he's going to have a year where you're going to see him start to kill those tight ends or those linebackers again on the seam like he did his entire career. They would run this play, New England, where they would pull the guard to the opposite side and Gronk would come right across the field. It was a nightmare, and he dominated on that one play. I mean, 70% of his production came off this one play, and he wasn't able to get off the line of scrimmage a year ago because he just hadn't played as much because he took the previous season off. They're saying now his explosion is back, and he's going to be part more of the offensive game plan as they move forward. Best tight end I have ever seen, and he's the best tight end the National Football League has ever had since Kellen Winslow Sr. because he could block, and he's got hands like Chris Carter. Guy was sensational. I mean it. No question about it. All right. The news of the day, obviously, we broke the story on Friday about Carson Wentz having to need surgery. And we were bringing that up on Friday. We had talked to Frank. Frank was going through COVID-19 protocol. That's the reason that I was on the phone with Frank, was to, wish him, good health getting through COVID protocol. And that's when I asked him, not just alternative, just I go, hey, man, is this guy going to miss any extended period of time? He goes, looks like he's going to need some minor surgery. So when we spoke to him earlier in the day, before I went on the air here on the National Football Show, I kind of had an insight that they were going to go and have minor surgery. And it ended up so that he had minor surgery today. They got a second opinion, obviously, over the weekend. Carson Wentz's people wanted to get it done. They conferred with the Colts folks, and today Frank Wright publicly came out and said that it looks like he's going to miss maybe up to 13 weeks. And then you got to talk about the rehab and what that means moving forward here for the quarterback. As I said in the last hour here, this is not how you wanted to start your season out if you're in Indianapolis. All right. My friend Jason Cole, Pro Football Hall of Fame insider. It is the Hall of Fame game on Thursday. Speeches will be on Saturday, I believe. Don't forget Jason's book here, A Relentless Life, story of John Elway here. Got a Peter King insert in here too. I really love it. Make sure you get the book on Amazon here. He joins us now here on the National Football Show. How you doing, Jace?
I'm doing fantastic. What's going on?
A lot going on right now. Your thoughts on this whole thing and this storyline with the Indianapolis Colts? We tweeted out, Jason, on Friday because I had called Frank and I asked Frank, we were talking about his COVID protocol that he was in. And I said, where are we with Carson Wentz? And, I came out and I tweeted that it looked like he was going to have to need some minor surgery. And here we are right now.
Minor.
If you missed the first two quarter poles of the season, maybe that's major. Give me your thoughts on it.
Look, it's never good for any team to miss their quarterback for half a season, let alone a guy who's making the transition to a new team and city. Now, he obviously knows the offense. He played in it. He's comfortable with coaching staff. But, Carson Wentz has a lot to prove here. And it's not just to fans, okay? It's to himself. Can he really play? Is it really going to work? And, sometimes you need a whole season to work those things out to get your confidence back. I mean, to me, Carson Wentz is a guy who's playing sometimes, or at least the one who was playing last year, was playing like a chicken with his head cut off, right? And he had lost sort of sense of athletic confidence. And if you don't believe that you can do the things on the field that you once were able to do, you're lost. And I think that this guy was lost. He's got to regain that. So, and a huge component of that is getting on the field. And so I'm not even worried so much about whether the Colts were going to compete for a division, win a Super Bowl, all those kinds of things. The most important thing to the Colts' future was finding out, what is Carson Wentz? What is he going to be going forward? Is he that franchise guy, or is he the kind of guy who's lost forever and will never get it back?
Yeah, and Jace, let's just look at that too. Okay, concussion, MCL, ACL, rib injury, foot injury. It's a litany. And to me, it looks like the same story that's going on in San Francisco. Eventually, you have to do this. The guy's makeup and the narrative on him is he's always hurt, like it is with Garoppolo. I mean, I hear, you see Twitter, go get Jimmy G's, right? Why would you invest another draft choice or a high draft choice or more money in another guy that's injured all the time? I mean, the Colts are in a predicament here. And I would say to what you just said, are you more concerned about like the future of the Colts and Carson Wentz than you are about the present? Because, boy, I'll tell you, he's got a history now that's showing you this guy is not reliable, nor is he durable.
Right. Now, these things can be overcome. All right. They take time. I mean, we all remember, or at least men of a certain age, and you're among them, as am I. Jim Plunkett, was ravaged for the first 2/3 of his career, right?
Yep.
I mean, he was a mess.
San Francisco and the Patriots, he was a mess.
Yeah, it was a mess because they didn't know how to protect him. They were a terrible team. I mean, the litany of reasons of why a quarterback, just completely falls apart. He goes to the Raiders. He sits for a year. He gets healthy. He gets his confidence back. All of a sudden, he becomes something. So I'm not trying to say that Carson Wentz is done if this, based on what might happen or might not happen this season. I'm not trying to say that. But if you're the Colts and you're investing a lot in him, that makes it hard. Okay, that's where you're sitting there going, God, do I trust this guy? Because if you're injured now and you've been injured this much, you're always injured. It's like your body's not ready for this. And so what may happen to Carson Wentz is he may go on that treadmill of veteran guys who, bounce around the league. The Rich Gans, the world, Plunkett, guys who, have to go through a lot, reprove themselves somewhere else. That's the problem here. Okay. And it's not just a problem for Carson Wentz. It's a problem for the Colts because they feel like they've invested something in trying to find that next guy. And basically it sends them back to the board, saying, hey, Andrew, are you sure you don't want to play? Are you sure? And I do believe that Andrew Luck at this point in time is done.
Oh, no. But my first two calls would have been to Luck, and my second call may have been to Rivers. You won 11 game with Phillip last year. I mean, he's coaching high school football. I mean, there's really nobody else out there. You're not going to make a move for Jimmy Garoppolo. You want to get familiarity in the room.
Or Josh McCown, guys who you can,
guys like that.
Can you get a guy like Nick Foles somehow? Somebody who knows, like all those people who go, like, go get Jimmy G or like they don't understand. Like quarterbacks are not plug and play guys.
Right.
They can come in and they can play in a system if they know the system and the coach knows how to tailor the system to what they do. Like Nick Foles is one of the greatest examples of a team figuring out what works for this guy. And basically understanding that for a short period of time, Nick Foles is a catch and shoot basketball player because literally that's what he was in high school, right? He was a Division I caliber basketball player because he was an off guard who could catch and shoot. Well, you put him in the shotgun and you say, okay, quick read, boom, go, do this, boom, go. And he got hot. He got amazingly hot. He got the hottest of his career, just like Joe Flacco when Joe Flacco went on that run to get to the Super Bowl. Okay, they took advantage of it, got it. If you look at Nick Foles on a regular basis, he's not that guy. But for 3 or 4 games, he was.
Let's move on to some of the business of the NFL here. Do you think the Buffalo Bills will be playing football in Buffalo in 3 years?
Yes. Yes, I think he'll be playing there. I think there's a way to do this, but it's not going to be 100%. It's not going to be 100% publicly funded. That's just, the Pagulas almost made their name mud in a town where they're loved by doing that. That was a really bad move. I understand it from a negotiating standpoint. If you're negotiating with another private entity, that's the kind of thing you would do. If you're negotiating with a public entity where it's going to get out that you did that, that was a really, really bad move. That could have been shrouded in a bunch of other different ways that didn't make it look like 100% funding. So they hurt themselves with that. But I think there's ultimately a way to get it done. And I absolutely do not believe that Austin, Texas is anything close to a landing point. Now, if you tell
190 miles from Jerry, right?
Well, like San Antonio is not a landing place because Jerry won't allow it, right? Like Jerry is not allowing another team in Texas. He allowed a team in Houston because he understood he couldn't make headroads in Houston. And Houston was big enough it could support itself. He was never going to do that. But he believes that he owns San Antonio. He believes that he owns Austin. He believes he owns everything outside of the Houston metropolitan area. Okay. He ain't giving that up. So that's not happening. But if you talk about Portland, you talk about, can somebody get something going in Oakland? Those kinds of destinations make some sense. Not Austin, Texas.
Yeah, it's not happening. Plus, you got the McNairs, as you said. Houston is like Philly to New York in Texas. I mean, they hate everybody in Dallas. So, I mean, he knew he wasn't going to make the headways there. But I would say this, Jason, let me ask you one last question on this business question here. Do you still think the NFL is set on trying to put a team in London, or maybe two teams in London? I know. Well, they keep playing over there. For what's the reasoning?
Well, that's marketing, okay?
Marketing? Soccer guy?
All right, Sileo, let me ask you a question, okay? You're 23-year-old Sileo. Let's remember back to that. Or no, better yet, 25, 26-year-old Sileo, right? Think about that. If you can possibly remember that, let's think about this for a second, okay? You're 26 years old. You maybe got married. You maybe got a kid or two, right? Okay. You're in London. You're about 6,000 miles away from your parents and your wife's parents and your family. How do you think she's going to handle living in London year round?
I'm playing in the Canadian League then.
Right. Okay. So all those guys who grew up in Alabama, or they grew up in California, they grew up in Texas, and they get drafted. Sure. They're single. They go to London. They have a good time for a few years. They find out that the economics aren't so good. And they sit there and they say, hey, can you get me back to Miami so I don't have to travel back and forth? I don't have to fly my boys 5,000 miles and pay $1,000 a ticket. I don't have to be shuttling my wife and my 2 kids back every other weekend because they miss grandma. I don't have to fly over. It's costing me an arm and a leg to work and live in London.
Don't forget my Gumad too. I got to fly over.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody, the Gumad, everybody. Hey, it's like we got to go see you, right? Like that stuff. There's a real life side to London, okay? It's not. I get the tickets, I get the sales, I get the marketing, I get the this, I get the that, but then you have to have your coaching staff and your players live there, because if they don't live there, then the people in London don't really fall in love with them. They're not one of them, okay? You're not living in the city. You're not part of the culture. You're not there year round. You're not available. And you don't love it because all of your family is 6,000, 5,000, whatever it is, thousands of miles away, hours on a plane, uncomfortable. It just doesn't work.
Absolutely. Let me take you to a couple last questions here. In Chicago, it looks like Andy Dalton and Justin Fields are pretty even. If it's an even thing going into the regular season, you got a coach that Nagy could be on the hot seat going into this year along with the general manager. Do you start the rookie because it may give you a hall pass for maybe another year, or do you have to start Dalton? What does the coach do in that situation? You got to win games, Jace. You got to win games and keep your job.
No, not necessarily. That's not necessarily true. But do you have to pretend that you got to win games? Right? Do you have to
show improvement?
Right. Do you have to show improvement, and then you say, okay, well, Dalton didn't work out. Now we show you the shiny new toy, right? And do we roll him out in game 6 or game 7 or game 8, right?
Yeah.
And then everybody gets excited about the shiny new toy, and then, okay, let's bring him back to coach him because we want to have some consistency. There's a strategy to that if you don't think you're that good, okay? And let's just face it, there's a lot to like about the Bears. Defense is pretty good. I still like the coaching staff. I'm not sure about Nagy as a play caller and head coach. We've had long enough, but the weapons, they don't scare you.
No.
Is there anybody? I mean, is there anybody on the team that scares you?
No.
Not one single guy. And so when you're a defensive coordinator, you've been in those rooms. You've faced teams where like, who do we have to cover? Oh, we can take him away. Okay, good. We can take. Okay, let's just line up and we can rush. I'm sure Jimmy did that plenty of times. Like, yes. There's nobody we got to worry about, guys. Just go get the quarterback, and when the game's over, right? Yep. And so and that's what happens. And I think the Bears are like that because you take a look at, they drafted a quarterback the same year that Kansas City took Mahomes, right? What has Kansas City done all the time? They already had Tyreek Hill. They already had Travis Kelce. They went and got Sammy Watkins. They went and got, another running back. They went and got this guy. They went and got weapons on offense to support those guys. The Bears have never gotten weapons on offense to support their quarterbacks. And they wonder why the quarterbacks are so completely mediocre. You're playing with mediocre weapons.
Ben, for 60 years. Finally here, this weekend, the speeches on Saturday for the Pro Football Hall of Fame. What guy are you going to be looking forward to that you helped put into the Hall of Fame? I love the speeches. I love the journeys. Jason, I know you guys really do your due diligence on putting these guys in. They're combining classes. I hear it's only 6 minutes. Is there maybe one or two guys, because they are double classes here, that you're looking forward to seeing this weekend?
Well, I would love. Look, Peyton's going to be entertaining.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Peyton's going to put on.
Yeah, that's going to be great.
Right, that's going to be fun. I think Troy Polamalu. I'm interested to see if he's shy Troy or is he head and shoulders Troy. And now he's got COVID, so I don't know how that's going to go. And so there's some things to worry about. The guy I wish, and he's passed now, and that's unfortunate. But Bill Nunn. I would have. Bill Nunn is the father of the greatest draft class in NFL history. That Steelers class where they got 4 Hall of Famers: Swan, Stallworth, Webster, and who's the other one? And Lambert, right? Four guys in one draft. And by the way, signed Donnie Shell as a free agent. So five Hall of Famers in one draft, right?
God, Noel's great.
And Bill Nunn's obviously Chuck Noll was big time in charge, and Art Rooney was there and all that kind of stuff. But Bill Nunn was the mastermind of that. And Bill Nunn, he wasn't a big talker, but God, he's such a historic figure. The first Black executive / contributor ever to go into the Hall of Fame. A guy who was a sports writer before he became a personnel guy. My hero personally. I just think, God, the stories the man could tell. It's too bad there's 6 minutes, but it is a double class, so you gotta get through. It is a TV show, so you gotta get through it. But those would be the 3 that I would really look forward to.
I would love to see Alex Karras and what he would say going into the Hall of Fame. Here's a guy that was in the Monday night booth. He was really one of your first TV star NFL next to Gifford and them guys, back in the day when they were making that transition. He was also in that movie Paper Lion about Plimpton being.
Oh, and he was Mongo.
Yeah, and he was Mongo.
Actually, wait a second. You just gave me a great idea. Wait a sec. You could be the new Mongo.
I am the new Mongo.
That's your book cover. The new Mongo.
No, Mongo Sileo. Mongo Sileo. Mongo Sileo. Jason, I can't wait for this weekend, man. I'm going to tell you something about you. I love the fact that you're a Hall of Fame voter. You've been around the game so long, and I really lean on you when it comes to the insight in this league. Thank you so much, my friend. I appreciate it. We'll catch you soon.
Be good, dude. See you.
Got it. My friend Jason Cole will take a brief time out. You keep it here on the National Football Show.
I get scared sometimes.
Of a lot of things.
Joining in.
Decisions.
The dark.
The dark.
But I once heard someone say,
but as I always say,
it's okay to be afraid.
As long as you face the fear.
And keep moving forward.
Wherever you are in life, count on the name trusted in insurance for over 80 years. Independence Blue Cross.
The savoring taste of a good bag of beef jerky is so enjoyable at any time of the day, as long as you can find it. Here's what we suggest. Pure Bull Beef Jerky is our answer, and soon it will be yours. Locally produced in the Philadelphia region, this high-quality, healthy protein snack is easy to secure. Go to steersnacks.com, and you'll see hot garlic, tropical heat, Pure Bull dry rub, and our favorite, Huck and Fod. What's that? Huck and Fod. Go now to steersnacks.com.
Welcome to the Wildwoods, the perfect place where you can safely do everything or nothing at all. Catch a wave, take a nap, go for a drive, grab a bite. It's your vacation, And we're doing everything we can to make it a safe one. The Wildwoods. Your vacation, your way.
The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local Union 98, is a proud sponsor of The Labor Show with J. Doc and Krause every Saturday night from 6 till 8 p.m. IBEW Local 98's highly trained and superbly skilled electricians are the best in the business, setting the highest safety standards in the electrical industry. So when you're planning your next industrial, commercial, or residential project, choose an IBEW Local 98 union contractor. Learn more at ibew98.org.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
This is a key. It's a family tree. It's a pair of wings. It's a secret handshake. And a ticket to anywhere in the world. It's more than a uniform. It's the door to a world most people only dream of. There's Strong, and then there's Army Strong. Try it on at GoArmy.com.
Welcome back to the National Football Show. I think we're going to get legendary Steve Spurrier on tomorrow. I was listening to a show prior to going on the air here, and it was about the Olympics, and it was about the story of Simone Biles. I guess she's going to go on the balance beam. And it was Marcellus Wiley, and it was Emmanuel Acho who do the show. It's a really great show. Two African Americans that give you great insight. They're spectacular when it comes to their journeys on being minority players, going through the media ranks, which is almost impossible if you're a minority. There's very few minorities that are in the sports world when it comes to media. And that show is really damn good. And I watch it, and I like both of them a lot. It's funny, Marcellus Wiley and both Acho said something that I kind of said, and that I was afraid, but they weren't afraid. They basically went like this. She quit, but she's not a quitter. I was like, I never heard it put that way. Her accomplishments speak for itself. But Marcellus went into, we've all wanted to quit and put our hand up. Nobody wants to go through 3 days. Nobody wants to torture themselves. You know, it's funny. Marcellus made a great point. Going through 3 days, sweating your ass off in training camp and having 3 practices. Do you know how many times I wanted to quit? Why do you think coaches practice the same play over and 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 over again? They want it to be repetitious to you. They don't want you thinking about it. Why do you think they push you as hard as they do when it comes to your training? It's funny, Jimmy Johnson and Howard Schnellenberger used to tell me this all the time. Your mind will quit before your body does. Your mind is the one part of your body and muscle in your body that you have to train actually the most. You see, it takes no athleticism. You have zero athleticism to train your body. Think about that. Bench pressing, squats, all of that stuff. You don't need to be an athlete to do that. What does it take to do that? Desire, dedication, determination. No one's watching you. It's funny, the same things that I was saying, this is not a personal attack on her. Never was. My daughter said something to me about the mental side of this. And it's funny. It's a fine line here. And I see both sides of it. You're like this. Hey, there's a mental health issue here. But also, like Marcella said, when did you come to that issue that you needed mental health? When you started failing? Was it before the games? Your timing is bad, which makes it look like you quit. No one's saying you don't have those issues. What those gentlemen were saying was she didn't know how to handle winning and failure. Like front-running stuff. Things are going great. I'm a superstar champion. When adversity starts to hit, how you react to that also makes you a champion. For 9 years, Michael Jordan didn't win in the NBA. It took him a long time to get over the hump for him to learn how to win as a team. She was part of a team too, Simone Biles. She just put her hand up and said, I'm out. And again, this is the story. I'm not ripping anything here. I was listening to another perspective, though. It's really great when you can listen to another perspective, and it's really great when you can hear it coming from minority athletes who were looking at that moment there and had the same assessment I did. Because you know why? When you're in a locker room, the skin tone of your body has nothing to do with being a champion or dealing with failure or dealing with success. Both those gentlemen believed that she quit. They weren't calling her a quitter. And for the record, it's okay to have a quitting moment. There's no shame in it. See, that's where those guys were coming from. If you were going to have a moment of quitting, you should have did it prior to going to the games. If you weren't prepared for you were just preparing yourself for success and you thought that you're just going to go in there and duplicate what you did in Rio, that's a narcissist way of looking at sports and competition and competing. And someone goes like this, she had so much pressure on her. Well, pressure gets put on you because of the accolades and championships that you win. The more you do, the more success you have, the more levels you climb when it comes to success. This, whatever reason, has become a very uncomfortable situation and conversation for some people. I can't believe that. When you're in sport, and by the way, how we have put, and again, I know it's a fine line, how we have gone like this, you can't even talk about it to some people, where you're going after them is absurd. That's what those guys' thoughts were. And I echoed him. I was like, amen. Nobody's attacking her, saying negative things of her as a person. How could you? I don't know her. I don't know her, and you don't know them. It's like the people that bash Trump. You don't know Donald Trump. You have no idea who he is. You're just watching what you see on TV or even LeBron. You have no idea who he is. You've never shaken his hand. When did it get to a point where you can't make a comment on something and someone take it so literal that it's offensive to you? It's got nothing to do with you. And nobody's really, how about this? Since when is telling the truth a problem? Right? I thought those guys were brilliant today. They weren't being mean. They were just saying the truth and what they saw too. As competitive athletes with a lot of pressure on them. Marcellus Wiley went to Columbia and he had failure in his whole life, and he made it to the Buffalo Bills. And I thought it was a brilliant place where he was coming from. I thought it was wonderful. And he wasn't ripping her either. He was just saying she quit. But she's not a quitter. I was like, wow. That's coming from two guys who do a national show like that, and everyone else is hiding under their desk because they're afraid just to say what it was. And we have to add all these other narratives into it. I thought it was really great. That's truly talking about the truth and telling a story. All right. I hope he gets Steve Spurrier tomorrow. That would be a great conversation with the all-ball coach and get his thoughts on the landscape of college football. Want to thank Krause. Want to thank Cal. Great stuff as always. Big Joe. Hey, don't forget, if you missed any of the show, go over to the JAKIB Media channel and you can like it, share it. We really appreciate everybody that comes aboard with us. Thank you so much. 4 to 6 Eastern time. Till tomorrow. See you on the flip side.